When I went back to Syria in 2011, I noticed a need in the LGBTQ community in Syria, a need for a space to feel safe for them, to feel that they can actually be part of a community. I turned my apartment into this makeshift underground illegal center for gay and lesbian folks to hang out with the support of a lesbian friend of mine. And together we started to invite folks. We had a slogan actually, friends invite friends. We only invite people that we trust into the apartment. And despite our best efforts and despite how beautiful the place is, we used to have game nights, and we used to have movie nights and sharing circles and all of that. But somebody reported us to the police, and I ended up being arrested. And my friends came together and they supported each other to actually get me out of jail. And overnight I was forced to leave the country to Lebanon, and I became a gay Syrian refugee. And I think that's what a lot of people don't understand. A lot of people think that refugees are running towards the countries where they are going to resettle in. The fact is, many of the refugees, if not all of them, were pushed out of their own countries and forced to leave countries that they love and they have careers in, and they have friends and connections, and they have a history with. I mean, I love Syria. I love my own country. I love it so much. It's a place where I grew up, where I wore shorts for the first time, where I kissed a boy for the first time. So I'm connected to it, and I wouldn't have left it unless I have to. I lived in Lebanon for a couple of years, and I realized that it's not going to be a permanent solution for me. So I started to seek to immigrate to Canada. And I'm very grateful that the Canadian society, the Canadian government had this agreement with the Canadian people to privately sponsor refugees. I was privately sponsored by a group of people. And I ended up being in Canada. I arrived in Canada in September 2014. And a lot of people think that this is the end of the fairy tale, that like the credit roll is going to fall down and people are going to make out in the airport, and that's about it. Like, things are going to be awesome afterwards, which is not true. It's really difficult to be a refugee in a new country. There are so many different challenges, some of them that you can actually just logically think of, like finding a job, understanding a language, and dealing with people from a completely different culture, with completely set of different traditions and costumes and ways of living, but also with the fact that I actually miss my home country. It was something that was difficult to actually share with people, to like go to the people who opened their doors and welcomed me in, to tell them, oh, by the way, all of this is awesome, but Syria is the place that I miss. Because in their head, Syria is a place of war, Syria is a place of destruction. In my head, I still carry the beauty of Syria with me. So it was really difficult to actually share with people that I miss Syria. Family for me is a very complex concept. It's a difficult concept to think about. When you think about family, you think about this tight unit of people who come together and have connections. And I think that tightness, that unity has broken down when I was very young, when I was around 4 or 5. I think my family could tell from, I don't know, I danced a lot, so my family's thought that I was gay, and my father specifically, he's this redhead, angry man with a very short temper. He wanted to make sure that I grow up to be the macho boy that I was supposed to be. He engaged me in a lot of macho work. I went to a lot of macho sports. I worked in a construction site. He introduced me to the sons of his friends, who he saw as better representatives of what it means to be a man in a Syrian culture. But I guess at the time all I wanted to do was to write poems and to read books, and I'm a nerd, so I used to collect comic books, and that just didn't fall well with my father. I grew up in Syria, and I honestly didn't feel very connected to anybody. Even at school, I didn't feel very connected. I remember perfectly sitting in the schoolyard, and I was bullied all the time, but at the same time I was ignored all the time. So the only time that people would talk to me is to bully me. And I thought to myself one day, I'm like sitting there looking at everybody hanging out together. I thought to myself, I'm the loneliest boy in the world. And I grew up with that mentality. I grew up feeling that I'm disconnected from everybody around me, but at the same time, I grew up with the need to be connected to people. When I was around 17, I used to have my first boyfriend, this cute little guy who's a couple of years older than me. Um, he loved kittens, and I taught him English, and we were very close. And I guess around that time, I felt like I have the power to actually come out. But I didn't come out because I wanted to like raise rainbow flags in downtown Damascus. I came out because I wanted to piss my father off. To be honest, we were having a fight, most probably around laundry or something, and I remember like saying to him like, and by the way, I'm gay, and that didn't fall very well with him either. He has a very heavy hand, and after a week I had to leave my family's home, never to come back, and I never came back ever since. I left the family's home, lived on my own for a bit, then started to nomadically travel around the world, and then I went back to Syria when I was 28 in 2011, I think, yes, and yeah, I never actually connected back with my family.